The DNA of a business is to do only one thing, and one thing only. It's to make money. That's what a business is. When it first started as a single-cell amoeba, that's all it had in its DNA, and it still has that today. It has been unadulterated in its pure form. When politicians or society tries to change the direction of the business, very bad things happen. When we try and tell business that they should give a portion of their profits to charity, I don't believe in that. I think that's a huge mistake. I think shareholders should take their profits and give it to any charity they wish, not businesses. When we ask businesses to have a conscience about green, not green, that's ridiculous. The government sets the policy of what the emissions are, and every business has to abide by that. I believe that business is war. It's hell on earth every day, and you should pour boiling oil on your competitors and try and kill them. That's a good business. This is something very important, particularly in the last panel's discussion about the global economy. Capital always pursues the highest return with the lowest risk. Money has no soul. It just pursues the highest probability of success, and that includes leaving and going to another economy where there's less union, where there's less government, where there's more opportunity. And that's about to happen. I believe there's going to be a huge migration of capital over the next 20 years out of North America, out of the Eurozone, into growing markets. If an employee is worth anything, he becomes a shareholder pretty quickly. If he's not, someone upstairs is trying to figure out how to fire them to cut costs. It's that simple. Employees, you know, I tell this to business students, don't assume anybody gives a damn about you when you join a large organization at all. If you're worth anything, you'll eventually get into a place of leverage where you can get some equity in this business one way or another, because you have no value as an employee. You're just a cost. Money matters. Where does it come from? It comes from shareholders. They are willing to give you their capital because they believe you have a better idea than they do in how to deploy it and get returns. Nobody would ever give you money if they didn't think you could do a better job with it than they could. Think about it. Why would I ever give up dollars to an investment opportunity if I thought there was another way to get the same returns at less risk? Shareholders are absolutely crucial in this equation. Government. Lots of problems with government these days. Very large cost to businesses. They cause huge distortions in markets. Lately, they've been throwing business leaders in jail for 2 and 3 lifetimes. Hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you, is death. Let's think about this. Imagine if you're the shareholder of Ford Motor Company in either US or Canada. You've done everything right. You've worked for 20 years to build your brands, make good automobiles, run your company in a very competitive environment. Even as the Asian manufacturers came into your market, you kept fighting for share. You did everything right, and you did it on a fair, level playing field. Remember, business is war. You're pouring boiling oil on your competitors, and you finally put Chrysler out of business. You're within months of being able to buy the capacity, the useful capacity, from this dead zombie company that has been building bad cars for a long time, has one brand left called Jeep. It's almost dead. You're just about to pull the tubes out of it after going and fighting it for 30 years, crushing the unions, crushing them within days of being able to have a negotiation where you could wipe them out. The parasite on business is a union, and finally, after decades, being able to crush them. And out of the blue, out of nowhere, like a bad dream from hell, the government gives this dead zombie company money. It's an insult to every Canadian taxpayer. It's an outrage to keep a dead zombie like that alive. It's an insult because think about how good it would have been to take the useful capacity out of Chrysler into better management, create real jobs for people over the long term, Chrysler will go out of business again. Don't worry about that. Because I think there's a lot less probability that the Canadian population is willing to fund that zombie again. But it's really challenging when government does this to markets, when it picks winners in sectors. This is a crime, and it has to stop. Government's role is to set infrastructure support so that all businesses can flourish. More power, better highways, better processing at borders. This makes sense whether you're in biotech, or whether you're in automotive, or whether you're in materials. We heard a lot about commodities. It makes no sense for a government bureaucrat to say, that company lives and that one dies. That's insane. And I think we need to have a better groundswell from individual taxpayers to stop this madness. It's a horrible thing we're doing to ourselves. And before I leave this slide, I'll put it up this way. Canadians, for all of our success, and wow, we are successful. There's no question, I don't care if you call it the Olympics or just what's happened in this last crisis, have trailed in productivity for 40 years. Why is that? Why? This is across NDP, Liberals, Conservatives, I don't care what government it is. Why is it that we just can't get the same productivity out of our economy that competing economies get? I think it's this reason. When the government takes taxes from profitable enterprises, which they have the right to do to support the infrastructure of the company, and they decide to deploy it into individual sectors, there's a tremendous amount of inefficiency that occurs. These are not market-driven decisions like Chrysler one we just talked about. These are individual bureaucrats making individual portfolio investment calls, and they're really bad at it. Decade after decade after decade, I believe that 33 cents of every government dollar spent in business is wasted. And so what I want to see less government, less tax, less, and more into the markets of Canada, which can be very competitive. There's nothing wrong with Canadians. They can run fantastic businesses. Give them more of their money back and let them make the individual decisions every day. Don't subsidize. Stop doing this. It's a horrendous mistake. The community, hard to define, always warm and fuzzy, always a challenge. There's always somebody knocking your door saying, give me money for the community center, give me a donation, you're a great company, you can put your logo on our hockey jackets or whatever. That's all wonderful, it has nothing to do with business. That's not what the DNA of a business is. You may disagree, but I personally believe that that's a waste of money. What people want from a business is a secure job and a growing dividend. That's what they want. So, let's rank these players. Starting, what you need to be successful is money. You have to have money. I really believe this is something that's challenged for all companies. Government support is to large corporations. You really don't see it flow down to mid-cap companies with sales under 50 million. And that's a travesty, because that's where the future is, and that's where the real jobs are being created. I hate to see that amount of support to large cap entities keeping zombie jobs going. And for those of you in the room, you may not agree, but I think you have to run your business with no conscience and no mercy. You know what I'm talking about. There's some decision you don't want to make because you've employed a friend for 10 years, or a relative, or an in-law, or something you have an emotional tug with, and you don't make the right decision. You don't make the financial wealth creation decision. I see this all the time. Yes, sometimes you have to fire your mother. Because in the end, it's the business that matters, not any one individual. The shareholders matter. And this is something I find over and over and over again when I go in and look at companies. I can see the disease in a manager that's not ready to make those tough decisions every day. The tough decisions you made when you only had 5 employees. You know, it's remarkable. The bigger you get, the less you want to make those tough decisions. That's how companies get into trouble. So remember that one. No conscience, no mercy. If there's somebody on your mind you want to get rid of, whack them tomorrow.